Hey guys, this is the second episode of the Sisyphus 55 podcast. We're joined here today with Nate is Lame. Do you want to introduce
Hello.
yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, hey, my name is Nate is Lame, and I do sad videos on YouTube with stick figures. So that might sound a little bit familiar to a couple of you guys. Um, we
Okay.
uh, we sad stick figure boys need to stick together, you know.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, I saw you did a video on death a little while ago. And
Oh, my favorite.
yeah, no, I like that a lot. You also do your survival guides.
Yeah, those are fun. People seem to like those for some dumb reason. So, as long as it pays rent, you know.
And you do seem to have a pretty big preference for Halloween season.
Oh my God, if Halloween season was a person, I would marry it. I would kiss it on the lips. I would take it home and we'd start a beautiful family.
This video is brought to you by the Ridge Wallet. It's light, sleek, and industrial. It doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge in your back pocket, and it seriously changed my whole pocket situation. Most people are still using wallets designed in the 90s, carrying around old receipts, pictures of their ex, and gift cards in an unorganized mess. Not the Ridge Wallet, though. This wallet holds up to 12 cards, plus room for cash, and there's over 30 colors and styles, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. The durable material means each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. You could buy this one wallet and carry it for life. If this wasn't enough to win you over yet, check out their 30,000 5-star reviews. The Ridge team is so confident that you'll like it that they'll let you test drive it for 45 days. You can send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/Sisyphus. That's ridge.com/Sisyphus and use code Sisyphus. Link in description. So how do you feel about I mean, it's going to be a different Halloween this year, coping with I don't know how
Y-
trick-or-treating is going to go, but
Yeah. I guess I'm all in favor of COVID, and I'm not in favor of COVID. Let me rephrase.
okay.
I'm more in favor of like social distancing, staying safe, protecting grandma and grandpa. But I don't know. I'm past the point where it's not a huge difference to me because once you turn 17 or so, you spend Halloween sad inside your house. So it's going to be the same for me. I just feel
Okay.
bad for all the kids who are missing on an important Halloween.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm in Montreal, and the last year we had Halloween postponed because of winter storms, and so this is going to be the second year where it's uh, delayed or canceled, kind of. So I really feel
Yeah.
bad. I had so many years of just perfect trick or treating seasons. I definitely didn't understand how grateful I should have been at the time.
Yeah, I'm calling bull honky. You can't just move Halloween. Halloween happens with rain, snow, shine, you know?
They
Halloween
the
waits for nobody.
No, the mayor did it. It was I don't think a lot of people complied, to be honest. And like, yeah, I'm not trick or
Yeah.
treating age. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but usually you just
Tell
get
the
drunk.
mayor that like a November Halloween sucks.
No, that's true. Yeah, November
That's
1st. That's
fake.
awful. That's Remembrance Day season for all the Canadian listeners. I don't know. You guys, it's Thanksgiving, right? For Americans?
Uh November
Mm,
25th, I think. Don't quote me
okay.
on that.
Okay. All right.
Hooray for
Okay.
imperialism and murder and
Um,
genocide and turkey.
Oh, okay. Well, not on that note. We should
Oh.
probably talk about some of the main things we're gonna address this episode.
I was under the impression this was going to be like light and breezy. We're going to talk about like I don't know TV shows.
Yeah, no, actually, we're gonna. What's your stance on what happens to you after you die? So let's just start there.
Wow. That is a left turn. Um boy. Well, let me ask you a question. What was it like before you were born? Do you remember that? Like sensory wise?
Yeah, no, I like this. It's the I don't remember it off the top of my head, but the Mark Twain quote. Um, of that
I
whole.
I think I remember it. He said I was dead for like millions of years, and I don't think that being dead anymore. I don't think it bothered me. I think that's what he said. I'm
Yeah,
butchering
yeah,
this.
yeah. No, that's the gist of it. I think that's like a very. I mean, that's probably my interpretation of what
Yeah,
happens to us after we die. Is that like in a sense nothing happens? If happening means like a sensory experience, like it's nothing we're really perceiving or making meaning of. So it is the
yeah,
equivalent of maybe being or like before you're born, or maybe when you're in a coma and you're just like there's no sort of consciousness.
yeah. I know that Mark Twain, not Mike Twain. Mark Twain said that probably to like try and take a little bit of the fear out of it. You know, like, oh, dying's no big deal. Death is no terrifying thing. Well, I'm gonna call. This is the second time I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna call bull honky on good old Mark Twain because I guess when I was not existing, I guess I didn't know any better. I mean, I'm speaking in like I'm humanizing the experience of not being conscious. Of course, I can't have preference
Right.
just for the sake of making this tangible. I didn't know any better, but now I'm experiencing everything. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah, well, and
So
I guess it's not really comforting in the sense of, well, we're conscious of it. I guess it's still kind of terrifying because you aren't experiencing all of the great things on Earth, even experiencing the sad things, because at least that shows that there's some sort of meaning that you found that makes you sad to begin with. But I think it does comfort us in the actual what it would feel like that he's kind of giving us this sort of experience that we can relate to in a weird way
mhm.
of before we were born. There is something comforting in at least knowing that it won't be either painful or really like blissful like we go to heaven, that it'll just most likely be something that we aren't really there for. Like it's really intangible for us to even like describe what it's like before you're born. It's outside of our capacity to think. And I mean, for me, it makes me reflect more and appreciate more on the things that are here now that we can still experience and create and so forth. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, but I understand it's still uncomfortable because it's like this void that we're eventually just walking into.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of that whole concept.
Anti-death.
Um Anti-death, am I right? um who's with me? And I guess this is a little out of left field. Um I don't want us to get too into this cuz this is a dumb rabbit hole if you go too far.
Okay.
But basically, that theory that we're all living inside of a computer,
Hmm.
right? And as soon as you plug like basic probability theories into it, as soon as we create a simulation of life, consciousness, that essentially means that we are a simulation as well.
Hmm.
If you go far enough down the rabbit hole, who are we to say that we are the one definitive simulation when there are simulations within simulations within simulations? You know that whole deal?
Hmm.
Um, so basically, if we were to be a computer program somewheres, what would that make the afterlife? Like, what happens to files after they're executed in our computers?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I
no, I
think that's a little
guess
spooky.
like when you're thinking of like just a video game character, like when you
Yeah.
turn off the video game, I mean, they're not.
Like,
Yeah.
is it even appropriate to like use like a dead Goomba? Because like that's a static thing.
Hmm.
You know,
But we could be
but
static things for all we know. In the scope of the universe, we could be like from a very like outsider perspective, we could be just these very predetermined objects moving through space. Even from our perception, it seems very complicated, and we have a lot of free will, and there's a lot of decision making to be had. But maybe everything's just completely predetermined, much like a video game character.
yeah, that's a bummer.
But I don't know. But like I think it goes down to that kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and like doesn't make a sound if like nobody's there to hear it, it's kind of just like kind of it makes you realize that you are the universe experiencing itself.
hmm
Like maybe whether or not there's like an objective reality, that's kind of just outside of our scope. And death is one of those things that kind of, it's almost like a little glitch, and it makes us remember that, like, oh, there are things that we just can't experience. It's just outside of our imagination.
Yeah. And I guess there's something really lonely about that.
Mm-hmm.
I had an experience recently. I don't smoke marijuana very often at all. I've never smoked marijuana and been like, man, I'm so glad I did that, you know? I'm not that kind of guy.
Okay,
I went
yeah.
over to a friend's house and he said, I'm going to change your mind. I'm going to change your mind.
They all always say that.
Well, he said that. And, I tried this stuff and, I'm waiting for it to kick in. And my friend just stands up. I'm with a whole bunch of other, people.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts telling us this story of this crazy thing that happened the other week. And, what happened was I started feeling the edges of like my consciousness. I could start feeling where my sensory began and it ended. Almost like this little void started creeping in on me of my own limitations as a person, It was spooky. And then I raised my hand. Oh, yeah? Yeah, this was...
Okay.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine at this point. And I raised my hand and I said, I think it's kicking in. And I've never felt this before. Oh my God, I've never had to do this before. I gave the room a trigger warning and I said, can I tell you guys what I'm feeling? I don't want to freak anyone else out. I think it's really sad that I will never be able to experience the story that you're telling me right now, that is an isolated event that I will never get to experience. I'm greedy. I want to feel everything. I want to see everything.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
That's a good, I mean, that is kind of an observation that you would almost need drugs to reach, because it is kind of that's not something we'd usually think of, but it's like you have a very limited amount of experience, like, in this life. Like, I mean, it blew me away. There was one of our perception classes in psychology, and the actual like in focus, like, area of our vision, you just hold your arm out and it's the size of your thumbnail, and a lot of the rest of the stuff that we think we see when we're looking around is actually, like, filled in, like, top down. And the color, like, in our peripheral vision, is mostly filled in. It's not actually there. And it's like, it's insane that we have a very, like, kind of doctored, like, congested perception.
So kind of like AI upscaling on a TV or something?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be a good way to, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. No, but then it gets even crazier when other people have experiences, and it's like you can feel it. You can have, like, the same sort of imagination, but you don't know if the other person retelling these experiences actually is seeing this, or they saw the same things as you're imagining, or if they even see the same colors as you or smell the same things. Like, it's crazy that anything can happen when we're so kind of out of touch perceptually.
Mm-hmm. It's, I don't do drugs. I'm not going to touch drugs after that. That was like, I am not wired for this. I guess perception. Have you ever played Night in the Woods?
No.
Highly recommend. It's absolutely brilliant. They really get into this. And I've never seen another media form touch on dissociation in terms of how we connect our ego to our perception,
Huh.
I guess mild spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't played Night in the Woods. But basically, it's the story game, and there's this thing that happened to the main character. This main character did something in their childhood, and the whole town that they live in kind of resents them for it. And it's revealed that the main character, her name was May, she was having this existential crisis when she was a kid where she couldn't rationalize that everything around her was something, that she was having a hard time accepting that as a child. She couldn't put it into words or anything like that. All she saw were just shapes. That's how she rationalized everything, was just shapes. And this drove her wild, and she eventually almost beat this kid to death with a baseball bat on her baseball team because she just associated so hard, and she just snapped and almost
Jesus.
killed a child. It's a brilliant, wonderful game.
Damn.
They really dug into that, you know.
It sounds like there's a little like novel by Sartre that's called Nausea, and it's Rockantine, and he slowly over time like has this kind of existential crisis where he realizes like he has all these Sartrean observations where like why is a table a table? It's just like the body of a tree, and he literally is like losing his mind because of this stuff. But, yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. I think that kind of reasoning, like why is a table a table? I guess it just kind of boils down to I don't care. There's a lot of philosophy out there where I'm like, it just feels like you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
I guess I can just have a little bit more of a utilitarian idea of what interests me in philosophy. If it relates directly to me and what I'm experiencing, or if at least it sounds cool or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if it doesn't do those things, I don't care. You know, but if you start getting down to like the nitty gritty of like, you know, what is a table? At what point does an object quit becoming a table? Where's that line? You know,
right.
I don't care. That doesn't make a difference in anything. Why would you drive yourself mad over that?
Well, because
drive yourself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that because he uses it to kind of show what an existential crisis would be. Because I think it's more so like this sudden,
like an analogy.
Yeah, like
metaphor?
it's a degradation of all these like symbols and values that he uses to navigate the world, and that can be actually very existentially discomforting because the way we navigate the world is through a lot of beliefs and kind of convictions, and once you start kind of seeing them in different light, it can be a little bit nauseating. And I mean, you know, maybe people can be driven to like kill a kid with a baseball bat. Maybe they just get really depressed and like read coffee or drink coffee and read like read like depressing existentialist novels. But it's because that's where I'm interested in, because you're right, I don't really care about like the metaphysics and stuff like that. I get kind of it gets really pedantic. But
I guess I have a really simple view or answer for that kind of stuff. What just really quick, what kind of music do you listen to, just really fast?
Ooh, I don't know, like hip hop, indie, jazz.
Nice, man of culture. Well, you might not know this, but I listen to a lot of emo garbage.
Okay.
And
that's a genre.
The thing is, if you say emo, you'll get different answers from different people. No one can agree what the heck emo is. If you walk up to someone and say, "Oh yeah, My Chemical Romance is my favorite emo band," they're going to lose their mind. And I get a lot of kids, you know, getting all bossy with me in my comment sections on my videos going, "Did you just call 21 Pilots emo? Did you just call Fall Out Boy emo?" Blah, blah, blah. And I guess my answer to them is, if I show this to anybody on the streets, anybody at all, and I say, "How would you describe this band?" And if they say emo, I think that's what emo is. If I show a person this table and they say it's a table, because these things are all just social constructs. There is no book that the universe wrote saying this is the line where a table becomes a table. These are all the fake, dumb concepts that humans made up.
Well, yeah, no, like I had a professor.
And I know that it's like not to be taken literally.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a stand-in for, you know, more profound, you know, I guess, you know, like I said, I just take a more cold, boring, utilitarian, quit with your emo garbage, you know.
Well, no, like that's a really good point. Like this one psychology professor that I had, she said like that science is just agreement in intersubjectivity. So it's literally just, you know, a bunch of subjective opinions kind of reaching some sort of consensus. And that seems to be the closest thing we have to some sort of concrete reality. When we're talking about stuff like the afterlife, then, I mean, there's no sort of subjective, or there's very little you could call legitimate subjective experiences of death. And that's where it starts to become more existentially confusing, I think, because it's like, I mean, as we said, like what do you do when there isn't even a single experience to kind of explain it? You end up with a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. Well, actually, I read this book called Heaven is for Real.
Okay.
That's a joke. I I don't know. I just think, like, what else would there be? You know? I guess I'm just having a hard time wrapping my mind around how someone rational can come to any other conclusion than our brain is full of, essentially ones and zeros if you boil it down deep enough and you just turn it off.
Uh-huh.
Does my computer go to some computer club, with hot tubs and loud music when I turn it off?
I mean, that sounds nice.
I mean, that sounds great. That sounds wonderful. Whatever helps my computer sleep at night. But
So
when I turn it off, it turns off.
do you find like it hard to kind of understand people that are more like religious and spiritual and like legitimately are convinced that once they pass away there's going to be some sort of salvation where they'll see their loved ones, or they'll be reincarnated or something like that?
Well, I guess it's. I was born and raised in Christianity. My whole family's super Christian. And that's what I believed for 15 years, and that felt fine. And then I made a whole video about this. I went through an existential crisis when I was a kid, and I lost my religion. Man, that'd be a good song. And I freaked out, and I just was in like this suspended panic attack for like 6 months.
Do you remember what kind of triggered that?
I remember I was really rebellious as a kid, and I was like, well, Christianity is this thing that we hold so near and dear in our family, so why don't I look up, atheist YouTube channels? And it was just 100% to drive my parents insane, but then it became real, and I was like, oh, these folks actually have a point. Oh no. And I started looking up articles written by folks who survive motorcycle accidents, and they're declared dead. And I remember this one guy said, yeah, I skid across the road and I just fell into this darkness and I snapped out of it. And I've been terrified of death ever since because I didn't see no God, no Jesus, no family. And I think it was just the sensory focused language that he used that really helped me rationalize, I don't think there's anything.
Huh.
And like really sit on that and really internalize it, swallow it, and know that without your consent, permission, this is all going to end. You're going to be swallowed into nothingness, and there is nothing you can say, do, no person you can write a letter to, nothing that is going to change that. And I think it's that powerlessness and that mystery and the fact that I think that being alive is a B plus most of the time. That was terrifying. And I just started feeling time creep away. I could start feeling my sensory, kind of like that story I just told you. I could feel the edges of that sensory. And then I realized what's beyond that. And that's where I'm going to go. That's terrifying.
Huh.
I watched this one video that said, close your eyes for 3 seconds. That's how long an eternity feels when you're dead. I was like, oh, I don't like that. No.
Yeah, there's a... Do you think that this terror could then, like, this in the same way that it kind of drove you away from religion, it could also bring people towards religion? Like, they might see...
Absolutely.
Yeah, they might see some sort of, it's such a bad truth or certainty to embrace that, like, people are actually willing to kind of take that leap of faith and just go, there's no way something could actually be that bad, or I'm not willing to accept certain truths about how bad it could be.
Yeah. Listen, man, if I could go back in time and just tell myself, hey, buddy, you can rebel, you can not clean your room, don't do the dishes, whatever, don't go down this rabbit hole, because you'll be a lot happier not knowing this.
So do you think, like, if you remained religious, you'd be happier?
Yes. Absolutely, without hesitation.
There's a lot of studies that demonstrate that usually the more religious people are, and if they're in religious occupations, they tend to just have higher subjective day-to-day well-being. So that's, yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
And I wish that we had something like that. I wish that we had like this dumb. Well, here's the deal. I I made a video on this very topic where I was talking about religion, existentialism, death, and essentially this is terror management theory. Can't remember the fellow who wrote about this. He wrote an entire book, won a big prize. And that
Sheldon
kind of
Solomon?
I don't think so. Let me.
Are you talking about Ernest Becker, who it's like
Ernest
based
Becker?
off of?
That's who I'm thinking of. He wrote an entire book on terror management theory, where essentially everything that humans do, whether they realize it or not, is just an elaborate scheme to essentially distract ourselves from our existential status, which is we're ticking time bombs of nothingness, and basically, geez, I just wish that we had religions that weren't like nasty, homophobic, awful, terrible.
Well, Becker, like the interesting thing is because like when I first read it, you kind of go, okay, like religious people, obviously, and those that are like very fundamentalist, it's kind of very quickly explaining why they're so extreme in their beliefs, and even if they seem kind of fanciful and far-reaching, that you can at least understand why people are clinging to them because there's this sort of terror of death. But he goes on to argue that it's not just religion, but it's also political ideologies. It goes down to even people's self-esteem. He thinks self-esteem, how you're viewed by others, people take that as sort of some way of cheating death in a symbolic sense. Because, if you're known as the most handsome person or as the strongest person, or you had a lot of friends, you'll still live on. And then that's when I started really feeling the terror. It was because I was thinking, it's not just basic religious beliefs. It seems to be his argument is everything we do, kind of like you said, is driving us away from acknowledging the fact that we will die someday.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I just think about speed limits in cars. I think about loading times and why those are so frustrating. I think about why we go to school, why we work to be productive, why I care about money, why I care about any of these things. And it's because I have a finite amount of time and I want to maximize that. This is basic stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, once you chalk everything up, no matter where you go, all roads lead to I'm going to die. The reasoning and everything, if you do the Socratic, questioning why, eventually you hit a dead end death.
Yeah.
It's spooky and it's sad. And I wish there was an alternative, but there's not.
Do you think that like you would want to live, like be like immortal? Like, do you think that would be a decent alternative?
Well, here's the deal. When you are Christian, you're told that God's omnipotent. You are told that God is all-knowing and, God can do anything. My mortal understanding of immortality is this, but forever. That sounds awful. But in a Christian context, you're with a God who can make forever work, Like, listen, if anyone can make forever, because forever in any other context sounds terrible. My human understanding of immortality is awful. Eventually, if I live 700 years, I'm going to be like, yeah, I think I'm done. And I'd probably, Kermit the seppuku or something like that. But, in a Christian context, God makes you happy forever. God will make immortality awesome, So if we're working on a human, if we're working on a human basis of immortality, God, no, immortality sounds awful. But something religious, if that was real, I'm like, heck yeah, yes, please.
Yeah. Okay.
It just boils down to, at the end of the day, we're all going to the same place. We're all, no one's going to change anything. Even Jeff Bezos can't buy like an immortality pill or anything like that. We all go to the same place. And so whether or not you're deluding yourself to think that, there's a magic man in the sky who's your best friend and doesn't like it when you masturbate or anything like that, it doesn't change anything. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, as
Yeah.
long as you're able to strip away the terror that haunts people like me, I say absolutely go for it. I hear a lot of these atheist thinker, guys on the internet saying, they almost heroize. Is that the term? Heroize? They
Uh,
make it
yeah, like,
valiant. They make it
yeah.
valiant to be correct. They make it valiant to be 100% rational and correct. But the thing is that, the truth sucks.
Mhm.
If there was a comet that was going to hit the Earth in 10 days and it was going to kill everybody and everything and there's no avoiding it whatsoever, would you want to know that it's coming? Do you want to
Oh,
spend those 10 days just waiting?
that's a good. Yeah, no, I mean, this is like a very hard. You, I think you wouldn't want to know, but at the same time, I do think there's a component of human nature that kind of really, really craves the truth, no matter what. And whether
Yeah.
that's good or bad, I don't really know, but it seems to be something that like we really desire. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's the fact that the truth kind of appears to be something eternal, even though we don't know what it is. And maybe it's more of terror management theory, where it's just another thing we can cling on to, that if we at least know about something eternal, maybe that can, in a way, help us symbolically cheat death. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's tricky, because I think ideally you would want to be able to accept the truth no matter how bad, and nonetheless live a fulfilling life. Like,
Yeah.
I think that historically the narrative is that that's kind of an honorable way. Do you think that
Mm-hmm.
it's damaging if people kind of embrace that ignorance is bliss mentality uh, to a certain degree?
It's it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because I think back to that existential crisis I had when I was a kid, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Right.
But at the same time, if you don't have that drive, if you don't have that fear, what is stopping you from just wasting your life knowing that, well, I have heaven to look forward to? I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to take care of that in heaven. I'll live my dreams in heaven. I'll be a rock star in heaven. So I don't need to pick up a guitar or anything.
Well, that, yeah, no, this is like Nietzsche and Camus both kind of make the argument that one of the most corrupting things about religion is that it can take away from the fact that your earthly existence is already pretty good. If
Mm-hmm.
not, you can make it heaven in a sense. Like, you can actually really appreciate a lot of the things going on in life, like nature and, loved ones, and the potentialities that you can explore in life. That it's
Yeah.
actually, and Camus and Nietzsche both basically directly attack hope, which I think can kind of summarize all of the things we're talking about, and that Becker is kind of discussing in terror management theory, that our kind of way to transcend immortality symbolic, or transcend mortality symbolically, is through hoping for something, hoping for some sort of salvation, that all is not lost to some degree, whether it's religion or self-esteem, or sacrificing yourself to a great work to be remembered. Um, it's it seems to be beneficial to a degree to kind of almost embrace the hopelessness and the fact that you're going to die, and that's that.
Yeah. And like I get that on a theoretical basis. I get that on paper.
Mhm.
But in practice, I think there's always that animalistic instinct buried really deep down that that there is nothing. That this is all you have. It's just bearing that in your subconscious where I would rather it be.
Mhm.
I'm just speaking in a practical sense. I don't 100% disagree. I don't 100% agree with that. I'm leaning more on like the 70 range because I think with some people, um, when I was religious, I was still doing a lot of cool stuff that I'm proud of. I was still pushing myself to grow as a human being. I was still trying to do amazing things. And I never let the promise of heaven stop me from taking full advantage of my mortal life. It's just some
Oh, I can't
people
hear you.
aren't like
Sounds
me.
like
Some
you.
people just get too comfy. And
Um.
I'm a very intuitive
Oh.
person. And I
Oh,
was
sorry.
chatting. Oh,
Could we?
yes.
Oh, it just it cut off right before you were talking about that you were still very productive when you were like religious.
Your recording cut off?
Yeah, I think it was a Skype. So actually, oh no, it should be fine then. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Just start where you just left off before I interrupted
You're
you.
good.
All right.
I'm a really intuitive person, and I really get bored, and I have this drive to just make things and push myself. And there are some people who are totally fine going to a call center, coming home and watching TV, and then doing it all over again. And it's my instinct to say, what do you want to push yourself? Do you want to do anything else? And some of these people just say, no, I'm fine with this. I'm happy with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay. I think that's just fine. Um, I just think as long there are no rules, I think that, you know, valiance is a made up concept, value is a made up concept, everything is fake. If you're having a good time, if you got dopamine running, don't let Nietzsche tell you that you're a waste. Don't let these dumb, dead philosophers tell you that you're not living to your fullest or something like that. If you're not stressing out and you're laughing at Everybody Loves Raymond reruns and, that's how you get your jimmies kicked, I say frickin' go for it, dude. It's everything's fake, nothing's real. Have fun.
Okay.
No.
That was the kind of the utilitarian
Yeah,
summary.
I'm very coldly utilitarian.
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, I can tell. Did you ever hear of the? It's like the utilitarian monster, where it's like because the whole idea. I mean, it's one of those like thought experiments that obviously they're just kind of being not super nice because it's like ridiculous. But it's this utilitarian monster that basically it is entirely fueled. Its happiness is entirely fueled by consuming people. So like you keep having to like sacrifice people in order to reach like the highest levels of happiness within the society. So so you just end up with this. I mean, technically you have an incredibly happy society, but it's all coming from one single organism, and it's based upon its consumption of the rest of the society. I don't know if that's directly the exact interpretation of it, but it's supposed to be kind of like there is certain lines to be drawn within utilitarianism.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, kill old people because they just eat resources or whatever. No.
But you're not saying it.
Oh, well, I mean, no, I love my grandparents. My grandparents are great. Does death scare you? Because you're much more well read. You're much more well versed on this stuff. Are there like philosophies and thoughts and theories that help you feel better, or are we just in the same boat, going, yeah, this sucks. Everything sucks.
Like I mean, I'm kind of and when I kind of talk about these philosophies, I mean they work for me, but I don't think they're like universal.
Oh yeah.
But I do like because Camus very much denounced the idea of hope, but he also said at the end of the day that it seems to be just kind of like how we crave truth, and maybe they're somewhat the same thing, but we really crave hope, and it's not entirely pragmatic for a human being to just actually give up all hope and just live their life completely in the moment. I mean, maybe there's like some sort of like monks that are very like mindful and they really are just existing day to day, and I have no idea what that would feel like. Maybe that's awesome, but for most of us, we do have certain hopes, whether it's like the hope that you can find a good Netflix show, or the hope that you can get enough sleep or something, like just like little hopes. And then big hopes, like you can find love, you can eventually find meaning, you'll have enough money or something like that. And even the hope that you can transcend death. He thinks that they're like at the end of the day, it's a little bit hard for people to get past this. And then there was Gabriel Marcel, and he kind of elaborates on this, and he thinks humans have sort of like a strange hope. And he was a bit more poetic, and it's like humans seem to have, just in a general sense, this hope for things. And it's kind of imperative to live with this sort of hope that nothing is yet lost, but to not directly say, I hope for X, I hope for Y. It's just this general sort of hope to kind of live with that. And I think that's a very sort of raw way of living. And I think it also kind of sums up Camus. I mean, my channel is called Sisyphus, which is, yeah. So, and that whole myth is that, Sisyphus just continually rolls this rock up a hill for eternity. There's no practical hope in sight that he's going to be freed from this. He can't even hope that he'll die because he's literally there for infinity. But he does nonetheless, or at least Camus says that we imagine Sisyphus happy, and it's because he finds this sort of strange hope that, and this is kind of why it makes him a rebel, is that he hopes despite the hopelessness. And it's not towards anything in particular. It's just towards his sensory experience and exactly what's happening in front of him, which is him rolling the rock up the hill. And so he frames human nature as kind of, in its ideal, rebellious at its most fundamental level. And I that brings me comfort, because there isn't a lot of situations that can be given to you that wouldn't kind of be able to be persevered under Camus' sort of view of like absurdism. So that, and I like that he doesn't just kind of go the normal existentialist route and go, you have to find your own meaning. And he also doesn't go the total hedonistic route and go, you just have to be happy no matter what. He leaves it pretty open. You could explore any of those, but he really makes it apparent that you need to be aware of the fact that there is no hope at the end of the day, and to nonetheless have this sort of strange hope and be happy.
So he would put forth that there's like a happy medium between almost deluding yourself but accepting reality.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like
it's like an irrational philosophy. It's like, and that's why it's almost like a big fuck you to the universe, because it's like, you've given me all these things, you've put me here, and everything appears completely indifferent to me, including you. So I'm going to be just as indifferent back. I'm just going to, if I want to be happy and I want to be hopeful, then I'll do that. And by doing that, I'm kind of rebelling against this indifference. And he uses a few characters, and one you'd probably like is, if you're familiar with Don Juan, that sort of like seductive, like fictional in a lot of like Spanish literature. He's this like womanizer, and he sees Don Juan as absurdist because Don Juan is entirely aware of the fact that his entire life is him seducing women, but he embraces that, he accepts that, he knows exactly why he's doing it. It's to rebel against this sort of indifference.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you pity Sisyphus or do you admire Sisyphus?
I think I would. I mean, in Camus' sort of framing, I would admire him. The actual story, I mean, it is sad. It's like one of the saddest sort of tellings of eternal damnation, basically. But
yeah, it's an existential nightmare.
Yeah, and I mean, and of course, Camus frames it in the sort of person working their 9 to 5, going home to their partner, doing the same thing over and over again every single day. That's how he kind of pins it on, why it's relevant to the modern man. So there is, and there's points in your life when you're working like a dead end job or something like that. And I mean, it's a nice book to read when you're dealing with that stuff.
I I guess I have a little bit of a disdain for folks who pity Sisyphus, I guess.
Hmm.
Because I, like I said, when I was 15, I was rebellious and that kind of deal. I was just looking for the nastiest, angriest atheist to listen to. And these folks were the ones who were stuffing just this objective, cold, hard truth down your throat. Saying, oh, yeah, nothing matters, everything's fake. And I think that there should be no religion. People should not be deluding themselves. They need to swallow this pill
Hmm.
down and they need to, hope is stupid, faith is stupid, all this stuff. I am, there's almost a superiority complex to it. And there are some people who would pity Sisyphus, and I resent them because I don't understand the general what's so noble about, being correct in this
Yeah, well, and
kind
it's
of
almost
deal.
like you can argue they're finding their own personal meaning in refuting the meaning of others, even if it's not at a conscious level.
Yeah, I think that meaning is stupid. I think their meaning sucks. They need to find a better one.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, I mean, and this kind of, I see this at least in politics with increasingly, it's this sort of like nihilism where it's almost like anti-ideology, and there is no hope, but it's literally just this kind of um, constant blaming and discourse of how bad the opponent is. It's a lot more critical. It doesn't really leave a lot of normative sort of solutions in its wake. It's more just about tearing down things.
Yeah. And that in itself, I feel, is a little bit nihilistic in and of itself.
Oh
You
yeah, well
know,
definitely.
it's just, I don't know. Everything sucks.
Well,
Boy.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. Do you think that religion, like, let's just say that there was this hypothetical religion, okay? And it was not homophobic, not racist, not anything like that. They didn't steal money. They didn't fight people who were different than them. You know, it was just this religion. I guess Buddhism or something like that. What am I saying? Just like Buddhism. Do you think that a religion like that, where it's false, we know it's false, but it gives people a sense of not being afraid. Do you feel like that is pitiful, or do you empathize with it?
I definitely empathize with it, and I forget what it's. There was some movie a little while ago. It was kind of an artsy movie, but it's all about the end of the world, and all the characters are totally aware of it being the end of the world.
Was it Melancholia by Lars von Trier?
Ah, yes, yes.
Nice, I
That was
knew
a
it.
good damn. You knew that like that. That was perfect. Wow.
Oh, I hate Lars von Trier, so I know all about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't particularly like it's not like one of my favorite movies, but it was near the end when she kind of makes that like little like fort. I don't know if you've seen it.
Does she
But
make a fort to stop the asteroid?
no, she literally just kind of makes a symbolic little like fort that they all go into, and it's right before this asteroid comes and completely destroys the planet. And I was like, that's a really good depiction of kind of just us. Like it's, even at death's door, we would most likely strive for some sort of way to not feel the terror or the fear, even if it's obviously not like actually going to help us in reality. So I find that more like if an that's probably something that I would argue is innate in us, is this kind of like hope, and whether it's good or bad, it seems to be very hard to rid ourselves of this kind of we need to have a sort of comfortable perception, and we need to kind of create a world of symbols to protect from the impermanence.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So I guess, yeah, going back to your question, like if there was a religion like that, I mean, yeah, no, I would totally empathize with them, and I'd say I'd empathize with most religions at the most fundamental level, like knowing why they exist. But also your hypothetical religion would probably inevitably lead to certain people in positions of power in that religion, and then that would lead to some level of corruption, and then you would probably end up with a lot of bad rules. And
then they inevitably just cut to killing brown people, and I wish they would stop doing that.
Yeah, if there was some sort of cutoff point, that would be good, but nobody's making the rules, so
I know. We need a rule maker guy saying, okay, your religion's gone on long enough. Time to reboot it.
Just a god of gods.
Reboot.
That would be perfect.
That'd be wonderful.
Just an admin. He's not even God. Just...
I don't know. That makes me think of Tierzoo, which is wonderful.
Oh, what's that?
It's not philosophical in any way, shape, or form. There's absolutely no deeper discussion to have from it, but my goodness, I love it. It's this YouTube channel called Tierzoo, and they discuss animals as if they are playable characters in a fighting game. And so they rank them from like S tier. All right, so the alligator is like B tier. They're a tank build. The doves eliminated this in the Cretaceous patch, and they codify everything, and it's absolutely hysterical, and there are hours and hours and hours of it, and I can watch it forever. Doesn't get boring. A little shout out to Tierzoo. I love Tierzoo.
Oh, I'm gonna look that up. That actually sounds so dope. I always like think about that in my head whenever I see animals. I'm like, I wonder, and even like I mean, you go back to like megafauna and stuff. Like some of those things are beastly.
Oh yeah, he ranks dinosaurs and stuff.
Oh,
T-Rex only C build.
I mean, the T-Rex is overhyped.
Yeah, it's a little overhyped. I always thought the Allosaurus was super cool, but that's just because that was the only dinosaur I could afford in Zoo Tycoon as a kid.
Well,
I just tricked myself into thinking, yeah, Allosaurus is the best.
I mean, Allosaurus is cool. There's isn't it called like the Gigantosaurus or something? It's like a gigantic T-Rex. Oh, and the Spinosaurus too. Like those...
I think the Gigantosaurus was like kind of like a Brontosaurus type.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I'm trying to remember what the
If I was a kid, I would have called it a long neck.
Oh, that's so dumb.
Well, I mean, Steven Spielberg. You want to fight? Land Before Time.
Oh, it's what is it? I don't know. I'm just so curious about this. This is because I just remember there was just this gigantic. It's only showing me a cartoon, so I might have just completely made this up.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's got Gigantosaurus the gamer. Oh, Gigantosaurus, giant meat-eating dinosaur.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Jesus. Oh, and the Archrocanthosaurus. Yeah. Oh, Allosaurus. It's up there.
Yeah. Dinosaurs are terrifying.
They are. Cool.
Aren't you glad we're not?
Well, do you ever see birds just like moving around, and then I mean, like there is some like genetic link to birds and dinosaurs, like some more than others, but just like if that's actually how they moved around, like all kind of like jerky and like their eyes are constantly like going back, that's terrifying.
I know if I see a dinosaur and it starts moving like The Ring or something like that, like a Japanese ghost girl, I'm done. Just like chickens and ghost girls in Japanese movies.
Oh God, in Japanese movies or in Japanese movies?
Like Japanese horror stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. No.
Yeah, I gotcha. Little question. Because I have some very strong opinions on this. Did you see? I'm sure you saw it. Midnight Gospel.
Oh yeah.
I
loved it.
Easy stuff. You loved it?
I like Pendleton Ward. I didn't like the first 3 episodes, but yeah, no, I did like it. Like the second half.
I gotcha. Like the overarching story and that kind of deal, as opposed to like the guest appearances and that kind of deal.
Yeah, like at first I was like, there was like the 5 minutes of, oh, that's a cool idea, like a podcast, but it's like well animated, but it kind of lost its novelty. And then when they started actually like combining,
making it a real show,
yeah, it was like coherent. I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Then the mom episode was very,
oh my god,
nice, yeah,
brilliant. Everyone, who hasn't seen it, I highly recommend. If you're not even interested in watching the show, just watch the final episode in season 1. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I remember that show really annoyed me. I
Oh,
found
why?
that show extremely obnoxious. And it's because the guests on there, I felt, were batfrit crazy.
Oh, some of them were insane. I mean, there were a lot of like new age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of like a lot of new age spirituality and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff really annoys me. Um I've been getting into counseling. I've been seeing a counselor for the past few months. I've been really focusing on trying to improve myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like self-improvement is pretty straightforward. You know, just think, be more in touch with why you do these things,
Mm-hmm.
and, quit doing them or do more of them.
Yeah.
And it's very basic, simple, straightforward. A lot of self-improvement is, it can be explained with, do you like hanging out with people? Are you more introverted? Do you think with your senses, or do you think in concepts? That kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you just boil that stuff down and then, see what works. But a lot of these new age spirituality things, because I think we can both agree, I think, that a lot of it, is bogus in the most literal sense, of vibrations and chakras and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're all stand-ins for the most basic forms of self-improvement. And they really just gamify it,
Yeah. I mean, a part of me wonders if it's just because the world is becoming less religious. If
Mm-hmm.
these are just kind of contemporary replacements for, like, to what extent is spirituality kind of a component of this sort of like hope we've been talking about, and that it's just inevitably you're going to end up with people starting to talk about these things that other people really want to believe in, even if they sound crazy, just because it gives them
Yeah.
some sort of like comfort.
I'm starting to realize that I feel like a hypocrite right now, because I just got done talking about, people who make fun of folks who delude themselves for a greater good are buttheads, and then I'm like, man, new age stuff is annoying.
I mean, well, it is kind of,
you know,
it's annoying, and it's also not as damaging or deeply entrenched as some
yeah, what's
religions.
like, where are my priorities, man? I'm just gonna continue with my rant anyway, with that acknowledged before someone else beats me to it.
Okay.
Here's a trick. If you call out your flaws before other people do, it sounds like you're aware of them and you're being witty or something, and no one criticizes you.
Well, we will let the people decide the validity of that.
No, I decided for them. If anyone comments
Okay.
anything mean, I'll beat them up.
Okay.
I think that stuff is really annoying, again, because it gamifies, like, astrology. There is absolutely nothing about the stars that affects who you are as a person. Doesn't matter if Mercury's in retrograde, which, by the way, Mercury's in retrograde right now.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. That's
Oh, no.
You have to frighten me like that.
Yeah. It's nothing about these concepts are real. And there's what bugs me is that there's so much thought, there's so much lore to this that people spend so much time thinking about and digging into, when in reality they're just these super basic self-improvement techniques and concepts that are just disguised as stars and that kind of thing. If you were to read a random astrological, what are they called? Horoscope.
Mm-hmm.
It'll apply to you 100%. I saw this, a Penn and Teller documentary where they just handed a bunch of kids, raise your hand if you're a Libra, and then they gave them all Libra horoscopes, and they started swapping them out, saying, okay, raise your hand if you think these apply to you. All the kids said, yes, absolutely. Doesn't matter if they got a Libra or a Cancer. They speak in the most basic, self-improvement anythings. And so a lot of it...
What do you mean by like self-improvement when you're talking about these kind of new age things, sort of replicating them?
Well, why do you think that people practice these?
Because I would argue that it's more for a sense of sort of existential, like, security and meaning. There might be some components of self-improvement because, like any system, it's, likely telling you to do something. whatever that, we can go down to like self-actualization, and like in the 80s it was kind of a co-opted term from Maslow's psychology, and a lot of gurus kind of used it to make that sort of like your goal, where it's, if you align your chakras and all of these things, that you'll be like self-actualized, you'll become an ideal human. But I'd almost say that's like a sub, because not everybody wants to improve themselves, which can be hard when you're someone who takes a lot of care in trying to be a better person and try to live like a good life. Some people are like you framed earlier, that some people are kind of complacent to come back from the call center and just, but they might be dealing with certain, I mean, they live in an uncertain world, so they might cling to certain things that give them certainty.
Well, I guess I look into it and, I used to date someone who was super into all this stuff. And generally, I don't hear anything from the people who practice these new age, spirituality, cultures and that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. I don't hear from those folks who participate in that stuff that it provides them with grand answers.
Right.
Nothing about it really feels definitive or sounds definitive. And so I couldn't understand how someone could look to those things and be seeking objective truth, like you're saying. I guess I just can't, I don't see that.
See, I think it's less like they need objective truth, but they need some level of certainty. So they're introduced to a sort of system that gives certainty. It seems to have rules, even if it's not actually, when you frame it in reality, it's completely bogus. You look at the importance of sports during the pandemic or any event. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that comes down to, there is, no matter this uncertainty, governments are printing a crazy amount of money to support businesses. There's lockdowns. You don't know how this virus works. There's a lot of social unrest. We don't know what's happening. People are losing their jobs. Nobody knows how long this is going to last. And then you introduce this like thing that has set rules. It has a cast of characters, heroes and villains. It has teams that you can, get behind and self-identify with. There's wins and losses. There's good and bad. It's like very binary, very simple, and it gives them some sort of certainty. And even if no one's going to argue and say that NBA basketball is giving them any sort of grand meaning, but it is kind of, I'd almost say, fulfilling that sort of innate psychological need for some certainty. And I think that's what these new age things are. It's just the same sort of, there's a little community. It's a little bit of escapism. It's also kind of a fulfilling level of certainty at the time.
So this is kind of like NFL for people with stinky houses. That's the funniest thing I've said all week.
Yep. Yeah.
That's actually that's a really brilliant way of putting it, I guess.
That's a tweet.
That's a tweet. Whoever can get to their phone first gets to tweet it.
No, you go for it. I wonder how much context you need for that one, but I think it works. New age movements are just NFL for people with stinky houses.
New age spirituality is just NFL for people with stinky houses. And tweet.
I just want to know how many
followers I lose.
Yeah, no, I just want to know the reaction.
Oh man, I've been bleeding followers all week, so let's see if that pushes me over the edge.
Oh god, what have you been doing?
I have no clue. I guess, yeah, you just introduced a new perspective that I hadn't considered before, so I need to reframe everything. Spirituality is like sports in the sense that it just gives you something consistent. Mm. It offers a sense of consistency. It offers a sense of comfort, something that you understand and that you can interact with in an absurd, awful world. This makes sense. This has rules. And this is how this affects you. And if you practice it in this certain way, then you will see its effects, even though these effects are just basic human social concepts that have been gamified and mystified.
Yes. Yeah, that's a perfect, brilliant way to put it.
Okay, I gotcha. I'm following the Grand Sisyphus. I'm contributing and understanding and comprehending. um, yeah. In case you can't tell, I don't read anything. I just get sad at 1 a.m.
Hey, I mean, that's as good as philosophy as anything.
Yeah, but you don't see me, writing books about it. I mean, I do make videos.
Yeah.
And it's got 1 like, so it's not a grand slam.
Oh, I'll toss a. I'll give you
It's
2.
okay.
You're gonna blow up.
Yeah,
Well,
spirituality.
like
Oh yeah.
I think like you can. I mean, with New Age spirituality, that's totally. I think we can both agree, pretty harmless. There is that. I don't know if you ever watch Wild Wild Country in on Netflix that talks about the Rajneeshis and like they like. Do you know about this at all?
I do. I know nothing about
Oh
this.
no, a lot of people, I'm surprised, don't know about this. In Oregon in the 1980s, this guru from India came, and he was followed by a lot of these like grad students, like psychology kind of people, and then a lot of like suburban housewives also that just kind of like left their family. Some people brought their family, and he just made like
Whoa.
this little compound out in Oregon. And like the government didn't really care for like a while. And then like they started building like a city, and it had its own airport and like hospital, and it had its own police force. And then the FBI was getting kind of worried because they were like, holy, like, these are just like some new age peace loving people. Why do they need like a police force? And then there was like, I think at one point somebody gets murdered in the movement, and then they're bribing homeless people to, you can come and live here, you get food and shelter if you go and vote for our like leaders in the next state
Oh.
election. So then that's when the FBI actually came and they were trying to capture this guy, and he fled. And I forget exactly how it ends, but that actually happened in the 1980s in Oregon, and it's like a perfect example of like, I mean, new age movements can kind of suddenly become like a bit of a threat, I guess. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
rare.
It's just, I guess, when new age movements do become dangerous, they get their own Netflix series.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen all that much, I guess.
Yeah, no, I guess so. Except for that, like one exception, I would say that they're not very damaging. But it gets bad when it starts to become certain political ideologies where you have a certain rage, and it feels like the world is kind of just kicked you in the face repeatedly. Nothing is certain. You just, it seems like the bad guys are always winning. It can be coming from a very simplistic mindset. And somebody comes along and they can offer a sort of comprehensive ideology that justifies your rage, and also offers you certainty. And the best part is that your identity, if you're a white, lower class like American, is tied to this ideology, and you're on the good side. That's when it can become very lethal. I think it's what happened in Nazi Germany, and it's kind of something that Hannah Arendt, she was this political theorist, she talks about, that it's kind of these widespread ideologies that come and take people's rage, offer them certainty, and offer them a sense of self-identity. And that's what you got to watch out for, because that's happened throughout history, and I think it's the same thing. It's preying on this kind of our need for existential security and comfort.
Huh. I am just I literally just added that to my Netflix watch list because that sounds incredible. I'm probably gonna stay up all night because that sounds actually awesome.
Oh, it's such a good series. Yeah.
Sweet. Man, I wish that we could have something like that, but have it not get scary.
Well, like when I was watching it, I was thinking like this is kind of like, from what we know, like kind of what Jesus did. Like he showed up and got a few disciples and started like a little following, and to their eyes it would have been like a cult. And like the only difference is that the Roman authorities didn't have like the manpower of the FBI to just squash it. Like it's really like, this is kind of, that was just kind of a contemporary version of how a religion would form.
Huh.
Because they were getting more and more followers. And they
Do
still
you-
have. I made a video on it, and the Osho Foundation, like, immediately, and his name, he changed his name to Osho, like the leader, and like they squash like every video, they copyright claim it. Like they still have a big following.
Wow. You should find a way to upload that, like, secretly. I don't know, to like
Oh no,
Patreon or something.
I have it. I have it uploaded. It's called like the Sex Guru, because I just wanted to talk about the. But I did have to. I had like a little email thing going with Osho Foundation, but like I just wanted to talk about what his philosophy was, because I found it interesting, because it was like really like a new age philosophy. It was all about like tantric sex. It was all about like just, you know, transcendental meditation, basically no rules, that kind of weird laughing meditation where you just like laugh a lot, and it was interesting. He did write a lot, and he seemed to just borrow from a lot of different philosophies, because I just wanted to like offer a video of like, this is what he believed in, and then also show some of the contradictions.
Huh. I actually have it in a tab right now, so I'll be sure to watch that as soon as we're done here.
Oh.
This is totally new to me.
Yeah, no,
Actually.
it's wild. Like a lot of people don't know about it.
That's redonkulous. Oh my goodness. I don't know. It just, the thing that bums me out is that all the people who lead these cults and organizations and beliefs, they're all really charismatic and outgoing and very well spoken. And I just want like a cult led by some guy who's like quiet and meager and kind of doesn't want to be there. But what he's saying is just so endearing, and you're like, yeah, man.
Well, who's that?
You know?
What's that guy's name from Ghostbusters? The really little guy.
I'm gonna be frank with you, Chief. I'm not a huge fan of Ghostbusters.
Are you
I haven't
serious?
seen it
No.
in ages.
Oh. No mention of the quality of it, but the he's like the really little. Oh, what's his name? Do you remember him at all? The really tiny guy.
Little Ghostbusters. Little guy Ghostbusters.
That should actually pop. Yeah, little guy from Ghostbusters.
Like, was he in Ghostbusters? We talked like Dan Aykroyd because he's short, or the Keymaster.
The Keymaster. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, he was the guy from Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, like
Louis
if he.
Tully.
Okay. Yeah, no. If he led a cult, I think that would be.
Yeah.
Kind of what you're talking about. Kind of that sort of very kind of socially anxious and not very charismatic at all. Yeah. So that means their ideas would have to be really good.
Yeah, I guess when I get into, like the person leading the cult, I guess I'm not meaning more so like the human aspect, but rather I want a cult with something of substance rather than just a really charismatic figurehead.
Well, because like my argument with when I made that video on the Rajneeshis was that there is substance in there, like any ideology that becomes kind of parasitic and starts a large following. But there's also this sort of, once it builds up, there's a certain level of power that those who first introduced the ideology are given. And the question then is like, how corrupt are they? And, to what extent are they going to use this power? And does the ideology also in any way kind of go against their sort of corrupt use of power? Or does it kind of actually justify it?
Huh.
Because Osho, his whole idea was basically completely chill, don't do anything, you're just vibing. But you could tell from the compound that a lot of it was not that. There's murders, there was a lot of, there was sexual assault, there was coercion, there was tampering with the political system. But then you look at, the Nazis, and Hitler's whole rise to power is justified in the ideology, and it's based off of this false historical narrative that he would reintroduce this utopian Germany. And I wonder if that leads to some level of success. And I mean, they're all just cults at the end of the day.
Huh. I mean, yeah. Do you think that there are any dangerous philosophies, like anything that should be like almost censored or squashed?
Um, like, I mean, there are times where philosophers have seemed to embrace ideologies that were, um, looking back, evil or not favored nowadays. Julius Evola was basically a huge proponent of fascism and Nazism, and in our contemporary lens, that would be considered wrong. And a lot of his writings were used to justify Mussolini's actions, and he's considered a philosopher.
Was he that guy who was just so helplessly dark, nihilistic, hopeless? He had dementia towards the end of his life. I think he made a video called like "The Scariest Philosopher."
Oh no! So that's Emile Cioran, and
Oh yeah.
he fell into fascism, and a lot of his nihilism actually came about when he realized that he had fallen sort of for a false belief and how evil it was, and how he couldn't possibly identify with it anymore. But he realized that he was so drawn into it, and so he became very, very cynical and nihilistic. And I don't even what he's necessarily advocating for. It's kind of anti-natalism, and I mean, you could argue that that is a dangerous ideology because it's basically or philosophy, because it's basically against the birth of humans. It's to just not give any more. They see life as inherent suffering, so to bring a life into the world is to increase suffering. So it's ethically bad to exist or even have kids.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that. But I mean, once you start talking about philosophy, you can't say that there's things that ultimately must be banned because it's a field that's so self-critical and self-perceptive, and it's constantly changing, and there's no real values. So like what deserves censoring and who's censoring it?
Yeah, I guess if there is something worth censoring in a philosophical space, it would root itself out, I guess, is what you're saying. If, it's truly harmful, has absolutely nothing positive to offer.
Well, if reason prevails, you'd assume. But I also think if there was one definitive thing that would rule itself out in a philosophical circle, is something that is unwilling to be self-critical or to be skeptical of its own premises, because then that's not really philosophy. That just becomes dogma. And in a sense, at least if we're just talking like in a philosophical forum, then that would be banned, because that's drivel. I mean, I saw in my Discord one day that my Discord's mostly just like philosophical discussions. One day there was just like a bunch of people that had like Nazi profile pictures and stuff, and
no.
it was all at once. And I have a great admin team, and they got rid of them. But and they're just very unwilling to have any sort of dialogue. And then when you say like you're not being very nice, they just go, why? And so it's like, if you have an entity that's unwilling to even, you can come in and try to justify Nazism. But if you're unwilling to like actually look at, some very serious refutations against that belief system, then you're not doing anything other than just being annoying.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Learning that you have a Discord makes me a little bit more uneasy than I felt before I knew.
Oh, really?
I just imagine that being like Lord of the Flies or something like that. That would become like, I don't know, some AI hive mind or something like that. Like, I don't know, like a Rocco's Basilisk kind of deal.
No.
I just see your Discord becoming like self-aware and like killing people eventually.
Oh yeah, no, it's interesting going in there sometimes. Like, do you have a Discord?
I do, but it's mostly just a bunch of kids talking about My Chemical Romance.
Sometimes I wish it was that also.
Yeah, it's great. I have a whole little cubby for political discussion. Keep it in there. Don't want to hear about it because I know that's the cubby I don't want to go into.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I had no idea about Discord until I opened it, like, and holy, like, I didn't realize all the rules and all of the, I didn't know that, like, I could literally deal with, like, neo-Nazis. Like,
Yeah,
you know, that
it's
is
empowering.
crazy. Yeah.
Feels good, being like, I think my Uber set up, or not my Uber. What am I talking about? My Discord is set up where like I am Master Lord, and there are no other Master Lords in my Discord. I never go on there. It
Right.
just feels good, to have a place where I'm God,
You're,
even though it's taking
you're
on
really
life its own,
embracing
like
that
you're
cult
saying.
with the leader that's chill and not
Yeah, I'm not
authoritarian.
here. Just answer to the guys, who I appointed as admins. Just like you said, you check in, and there's a whole lot of new rules, and
Yeah.
that kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
You're still Lord around there. If you poke your head into a voice chat, kids are going to lose their minds.
I mean, that actually makes, because people go like, "Where is God?" But it actually makes sense being a Discord like owner of a server that God's probably doing other stuff most of the time if he exists. Like, he's not constantly watching and seeing what we're doing, and then probably when he comes back, he just sees that there's just so much new stuff that he has to catch up on that he's like, I don't really care. Like, I'll just leave it to the people who I left in charge.
Yeah, I feel like that's an unfair depiction of God, though.
Okay.
It feels like, I'm just nitpicking at this point. It feels like we're putting human characteristics on God when who's to say that,
Well, we were made in his image.
We were made in his image, but not in his brain capacity.
Oh, that's true.
No.
So he's a really good Discord server.
God
owner.
is the ultimate Discord admin.
Okay.
I mean, he's actually a pretty terrible Discord admin because we do still have fascism rising in Western culture, rampant rape, murder. My friend spilled a shake on himself yesterday. So if he's omnipotent, he's doing a bad job, and he owes my friend about $1.50 and spilled banana shake.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, it was awful. That was probably the worst thing to happen this week.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing else happening this week.
No, nothing else happened. No. Yeah, my life is so hard.
Oh, man. Well, I do have to go. I promised my brother that we would play some video games. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Because I was in Montreal for like all of the lockdown, and then I came back to Alberta where I haven't seen my family for a while, and we used to always play Call of Duty Zombies, Black Ops Zombies.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so we're gonna get that going.
Excellent.
Yeah, but it was really awesome talking to you.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, and hopefully we can do this again. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would be down to clown.
Sweet, my friend. All right, man. Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Thanks for listening. You guys can check out Nate Islame's channel. He has really good content. Yep.
I'm like Sisyphus, but less smart.
Yes, and like also, well, I don't know. I didn't mean yes to that, but less sad if you just want to just like laugh a little bit more, and life isn't all just really philosophical and deep. There is stick men that are there for the funny times and the fun times. But
yeah, I used to call myself the sad stick man, but you stole that from me.
Oh, I'm sure a sadder, an even sadder one will come around, and I'm scared of that.
Yeah, he'll just be like, I don't know, who's sadder than Sisyphus?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. We'll talk about it in the sequel.
Yeah, it's a sequel. Figure that out. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening.